Welcome back to Wealth on the Water, episode 2. I am super excited for today's podcast episode. We are here with what I consider to be the most interesting person I've ever met. You might hear some random facts. You might learn something new today. You actually definitely will learn something new today. I am with Hannah Katz today. Hannah, welcome.
Thank you, Theoni. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Okay, so let's get into it.
Okay.
You are an artist.
Yeah. Well, you might say that.
You're an artist. I will say that.
Resounding yes. Yes. Yes, I'm an artist.
Okay, I want to talk a little bit about where that started. When did that love for art start for you, and how does that flow into what you do as a loan officer, which are two different worlds?
I don't think they're two different worlds, first of all, but I'll get into that. I started my artistic journey when I was a baby. Like, I feel like I was painting for as long as I remember, and drawing and just basically doing anything creative. I think there was probably a creative gene that passed down in my family because my grandfather on my mom's side was an artist and did a lot of oil painting. And then he had 7 kids, so many kids, and all of them were artists. So there was some kind of gene that passed through to me. And I really feel like it's not too different from, I feel like the artist world really blends easily into the mortgage world, because with art and with mortgages, you really need to be able to project into the future about what you're trying to do. Like, what emotion are you trying to evoke? What kind of art are you trying to make? If I do X, Y, and Z, what does it do to the work X, Y, and Z? It's like you have to be able to know what you're doing kind of before you do it. Mm-hmm. And that lends really well into mortgages because it's all about projections, based on someone's scenarios, what program are they using? What price point? What if they looked at a higher price point or a lower one? How is that going to affect my advisory? How is that going to affect their home search? So it's very, very similar in my opinion.
I love that. So your journey into being a loan officer started really, just a loan officer, not just in the industry, 2 years ago?
No. So, I've been originating for 2 years, I'd say, but no, I actually started in 2016.
Okay.
Where I came into the mortgage world as a receptionist.
A receptionist?
I was a receptionist.
Okay,
Can you
Pam.
imagine? So, and then before that, I was in real estate, actually. I was doing a lot of ops in real estate offices in Maryland, New York, since 18 years old. So I've really been in the industry for about a decade now, total, wow. You could say.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So through that, I want to talk a little bit about when I first came on, and I was talking to Matt, our branch manager, about you. He mentioned that people doubted you in being a loan officer. And I love the story, and I want you to tell it because I think it's just so raw and authentic, and kind of also your whole mission behind empowering women to help them financially through real estate, you know? So tell me a little bit about what those doubts were and how you clearly have overcome them.
I think that, the place that I was at, both in my life and in my job, I had come from a receptionist desk where I was answering phone calls, and it was very monotonous and easy, mundane work. And I don't know if it was a product of that work that made it hard to move up in the industry in that way. I think there were a lot of different factors. So from receptionist, I became an assistant. For about 5 years, I was an assistant, 4 or 5 years. And
for how many loan officers?
Too many. Too many. But I really feel like I was good at the job, and I think maybe a loan officer spirit was recognized in me, and maybe it was a fear of losing the great assistant that kept me from being able to advance where I was at the time. I found opportunity, I feel, elsewhere where I would be supported. And not only be supported, but be able to support myself. I wasn't looking to ask anyone permission.
I love that.
So that's why I came to AnnieMac. That's why I started originating in the first place. I wanted a different. I could see a different life for myself. So I reached out and I grabbed it.
Okay. What advice would you give to that Hannah that jumped in with both feet to originate now that you've been on the other side?
These are really hard questions.
I know.
um,
It could be really simple. I mean, it could be like a one-liner that you feel like she really needed to hear. That would hopefully help somebody that might be in that same position right now.
you can do anything you want. Anything. You can, if you want this, go get it. The only thing stopping you really is yourself when you think about it.
Why do you think that Hannah needed to hear that back then?
There were so many obstacles to what I felt like there were so many obstacles to my dream, which was doing this job. Not just in management and other people, but in myself. I was somewhat limiting of myself because all the other loan officers I knew were very successful, very straight, middle-aged men. I don't exactly fit the mold for a successful loan officer. And I was terrified of failure, and I felt like failure in this industry would not only be letting myself down, but my whole community in a way, because there is very little representation for anyone in the LGBTQIA plus community in an industry like this. So there was a lot, like, just emotionally, I think, riding on all of this. But at the end of the day, like, that's kind of also what propelled me forward was I can be this, I can exist in this space, and I don't need to shy away from being who I am.
Yeah, I love that. Would you say that that was probably one of the hardest things you've overcome?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
One of the hardest.
Okay, let's talk about the other hardest,
Oh, gosh.
because that was my next question. We always learn from things that are really hard, right? And so I always tell people that that's why I love to ask, what was the hardest thing or hardest things that you've overcome in life, and what have you learned from them? Because those lessons are really, you'll never get them unless you feel, those issues and overcome those problems. So what was the other?
There was a time in my life when I lived in New York and I was really struggling to pay my bills because I was dealing with a lot of insomnia. And I don't know why. I just was really having a hard time sleeping. And, when you don't sleep, you can't, like, function that well. So I was, like, hanging on to my job by a thread.
What did you do back then?
Ops for real estate.
Okay.
Still. Yeah. So this was back in, like, 2015, early 2016. And so I was really struggling, and I lost my job because I couldn't drive to work because I was so sleep deprived. And then I, didn't have a lot of savings, so I had a box of protein shakes that I ate for like 2 weeks. And all I had for 2 weeks was like protein shakes.
Oh my God.
And I lost a lot of weight, which was kind of nice. Looking at the positives. Okay. But at that time I was like, what am I going to do? I couldn't sleep, so I couldn't, like, function. I couldn't go to work. And I need to be able to live. So I came back to Maryland because I figured I could kind of gain my footing again and try again. And I did. It took a while, but that was really hard because I remember, staring into a box of packets of protein shakes, and I had like 10 of them left. And I remember counting them and being like, oh my God, I only have 4 days of food left. which is really intense. But like, and at that point, you just kind of concede. But I think that like in my life, I mean, that's I've been through a lot, and that's just one of the things. Um,
What would you say you learned from that experience, from that time, or even from that moment?
the wow, that's like I like to talk about I mean, I don't like to talk about that experience, but I like to talk about that experience as sort of a turning point in my life, because it felt like rock bottom. And now, I would say I learned from that you you can determine what your next steps are, and if those next steps are starting over, if those next steps are completely veering into a different path, if it's trying to, shack up with a friend and get another job, that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Um, I think ultimately it taught me how to love myself, even though I felt unlovable because I couldn't sleep.
It'll do that to you.
It'll do that to you. It really taught me how to love myself for sure.
And when did you find Jamie in all this?
Um,
I'm trying to figure out timeline.
yeah. So New York was a bust. Moved back to Maryland. Found a new job in mortgages as a receptionist. I got pre-approved after a few months of work in there to buy my first house at $150,000. I was making minimum wage, and my wife, well, she wasn't my wife at the time.
Your lover?
I mean, I had known her for several years, and we were like talking back and forth slowly on Facebook Messenger, and she agreed to go out on a date with me. And she already had a house, which I thought was the coolest thing ever. I was like, okay,
But you had a house too.
Listen, money bags. So I didn't end up buying a house. I ended up moving in with her shortly thereafter. It was the good old U-Haul experience.
Man, I love that. Hey, we're moving in.
Fell in love.
I love that. And what
3 weeks later.
What year was that? You moved in 3 weeks after. Oh my gosh.
It was like 3 months.
Okay.
It wasn't.
Guess when you know, you know.
I knew, and now we're married. No, we moved in early 2017.
Okay. And then when did you guys get married?
November. She's not here, is she?
I don't know.
November 14th, 2020.
Oh my gosh.
November 16th. It's the 14th or the 16th.
But it was in 2020.
Yes.
Okay. Which was a crazy year, right?
Yes.
And so in November of 2020, you guys get married. And then that first year of marriage, plus you jumping into originating, right, in 2021. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because, I mean, I just went through my first baby and my first year of marriage all in 1 year. And I feel like no one talks about that. So how did Jamie support you during a time that was so hectic in your life? And how did you support her?
Oh,
it's tough.
Yeah.
It's a tough year.
So real estate obviously is very unique form of employment because you're always available all the time, typically. So that was somewhat pre-negotiated into the marriage. It was a conversation that was, hey, if you're going to marry me, this is the package. This is what I signed up to do. This is what I want to do. And apparently it wasn't enough because we're creating some other things too, nonprofit,
We're
things like
there.
that. So, but she knew that when we got married, that was part of my life. And as far as support goes, I mean, God, she was an angel. I mean, she was so patient. She would sometimes talk to me about, hey, can we have a specific time that's just us? Of course. And then other times, like, she was unendingly patient. I would get up from dinner to take a phone call, multiple times. I would stop in the middle of a conversation we were having to go take a phone call or respond to someone or go write an estimate. She, I would say I had no reason receiving that kind of support. I feel like I didn't deserve it. I feel like I should have been more focused on her, to be totally honest. And she just waited. So that's how she supported me. And I supported her, you know, by, when she would try to say, hey, I need X, Y, and Z, I would provide in that way. But to be totally honest, I wish I'd been a bit more productive, or not productive, but proactive in our first year of marriage.
I mean, it's a tough year. You learn a lot about each other, a lot about things, and then you add, like you said, our industry of being available 24/7, and it's really tough. I mean, it's hard. So, what has been the game changer with you guys? Like, how do you show up for your business to crush it with 32 million in volume and at the same time be in this loving relationship that you guys have curated?
I think over time, creating a little bit more boundaries has really helped. From 7 to 9, I am pretty much with my wife unless my phone actively rings. And that's helped us a lot. There are times when we schedule outside of the typical hours of when to just have conversations, go over household items, and we go on dates too. But I think having a little bit better boundaries of being able to just put my phone down for 20 minutes so we can have a conversation has helped a lot.
Do you get anxiety when you're away from your phone? What's that time mark that you start to feel like you want to
About 2 minutes. About 2 minutes. We've been recording this podcast for maybe 10 minutes now, and I'm like, where's my phone?
I need to check it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I also want to talk a little bit about your newest venture because you've obviously crushed the game of loan officer originating, or, every day we're just kicking ass and taking names. But I want to talk about your newest venture because it is really awesome to hear you talk about it. I can see how passionate you are about it, and I don't want to reveal it. I want you to be the first one to reveal it.
Thank you. I mean, I guess this is really my first time talking about it publicly at all. Which is crazy because I've been working on it since January 1st. But I'm creating a nonprofit called Making It Home. And it is the acquisition and redistribution of furniture to people in need in the Baltimore metro area. And we are designated. We got our nonprofit designation from the IRS about 30 days ago.
Nice.
So we are a public charity. And we're still getting some of the logistics together, and I'm finishing up the website. We're not launched yet, but we should be launched very soon. And it's very exciting.
I love that. Okay, I want you to tell the story behind that. Give me that story.
Yeah, so I had a client that was trying to buy a home, and he was sweet 70-year-old man. He was a veteran, first-time home buyer, using his benefits. And I put him into underwriting for pre-underwriting before he was going to start putting in offers. And the underwriter asked me a question. She was like, hey, can you just get some clarification on his address? So I said, absolutely. So I went and called him and I said, hey, the underwriter's just asking some questions about your current address. And he kind of hesitated. He said, oh, I thought you'd maybe ask me about this. I was like, okay, what's up? And he said, I live at the library. I'm homeless. So I was thinking to myself, all right, this guy's using all of his life savings for the cash to close on this. He's a veteran, right? He doesn't have any possessions to my knowledge. I kind of had an existential crisis, and I was like, what am I doing at this job? What am I doing making this money? What am I doing in life if I'm not helping people? What is the point? I had this moment just as soon as, I had a meeting scheduled with realtor partner of mine, Marianne Mayer, and she came to the office and we just ended up talking about this nonprofit idea the whole time for like 2 hours, 2.5 maybe. And she loved it. She was like, okay, yeah, like obviously this guy is going to buy a house, but what is he going to put in it? So Marianne and I created a little bit of an alliance, and yeah, we've been working together with a board, of course, and some other wonderful people to make it happen ever since.
So the idea is what exactly? Like how does this work?
So the idea is, real estate agents, your sellers are probably at any given point trying to get rid of furniture. Now, the EPA estimates that every year 17 million tons of furniture are sent to landfills, which is a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. So the idea is you can connect your sellers with our nonprofit, and they can upload pictures of the furniture that they're trying to get rid of and schedule a time for us to come pick it up. And it is, qualified as a donation. So they do receive a donation receipt. And then we get that furniture, and then we're connected with various social workers in Baltimore City, the Boys and Girls Club, and different other organizations that have need for the furniture. And then we coordinate getting it to them.
That's amazing. Would you say that this is what success looks like for you?
Almost. I mean, it's not launched yet.
No, but I mean the idea of it, right? Like, what is your idea of success, and does this follow that guideline?
I never thought I would open a nonprofit, to be honest. It always kind of seemed like something other people that have other connections do. I don't have many connections, so I never thought that would be me. But I mean, I don't know what looks like success. To me, success is, laughing a lot. I mean, am I happy? Am I making other people happy? Am I spreading positivity and joy? Like, that's success to me. I mean, money is great, and this job is great, and the nonprofit is great. But like, what are we doing to affect other people around us?
Yeah.
That, to me, that is what success is. And I would like to think I am. Yeah. I would like to think I'm on my way every day to doing a better job at that.
So when you retire, which will be soon, probably on this path, because when can you tell us about that? When you retire, what do you want to do? Because that's, I mean, you have a timeline that.
Yeah. I mean, I want to retire, maybe partially retire in like 10 years. So when I do that, I'm going to probably paint more. I'm still going to be a loan officer. I just might not, come to the office every day, but, paint more, do the nonprofit stuff. I really want to engage in other activities too, just as far as like being more involved in the arts, and then maybe getting involved with other nonprofits. And like, rather than spending my time working 24/7 and building all this stuff, maybe I could like volunteer my time at another nonprofit. Because time is so valuable, especially a lot of nonprofits need volunteers. So
yeah. So my next question kind of ties into that. You have to pick one of these two if you had to pick. Okay.
Okay.
You could either show up to your own art exhibit in 10 years or go to closing, and it only will close if you go, for a multi-million-dollar loan. What are you going to do?
It'll only close if I go.
Which one would you go to?
The closing, for one reason and one reason alone. First of all, I'll probably have more art exhibits. Second of all, my art, I've seen my art. I don't need to go see it. I made it. I know what it looks like.
Yeah, but what if other people wanted to come see it?
They would. Unless I have the keys to the art.
You have the keys.
I have the keys to the gallery.
Yeah, like if you can't
Everyone
have
would
both.
be locked out. Oh, yikes. That's awkward. Okay.
Well, folks, she picked multi-million-dollar loans. So sorry about if you wanted to ever see Hannah's art, you can't.
Maybe I wouldn't have a gallery ever again. The gallery owners would be like, you're out.
Close it out.
Yeah.
Hannah, how many languages do you speak?
Reliably 3.
What are they?
English. Shocker.
Whoa.
French and Russian.
Oh my gosh. All right. So What's the idea behind learning languages? Because I know that's important to you.
I honestly, that's truly a hobby. I like conversating with people in different languages. It's a fun challenge. And if you get really good at it, people are typically like shocked. They're like, how did you learn this stuff? I don't know. But it's fun to get really good at something that is challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And I think language learning, especially using a lot of the different apps nowadays, is very accessible.
I love that. What are interest rates going to do by the end of the year? What's your guess?
Oh, who knows?
Yeah,
I can't curse on this podcast, right?
Yeah, you can.
Oh, hell. I don't know.
Oh, hell.
Oh, hell.
Oh, no.
I hate that question.
I just want to know because I love looking back at these things and seeing,
geez.
I don't know, say like 8%, whatever comes to your heart when I ask you that question.
I think they're going to be pretty level, if not a little lower. I think they're going to be
Than
a
what?
little lower than what they are right now.
Which is,
I don't know, somewhere in between.
she doesn't want to say a number.
Mid 6 to low 7s.
Okay.
Right now, yeah.
Okay.
Depending on the situation. So, I think I do see them being either at that or lower by the end of the year.
Okay, and I think that's going to be pretty good for people if it does happen, right?
Fingers
Refinancing
crossed.
and all that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so last question.
Okay.
What is the most influential book you've read?
So I read fiction
Okay.
to get out of my head.
Okay.
So I'm going to respond with a fiction book.
Okay.
I would say, and I just finished it, so maybe that's why I'm going to say it.
Mm-hmm.
Dark Matter by Blake Crouch,
Okay.
which is a story about a man that creates multiple universes, but he basically gets ripped away from the original universe where his wife is. So it's a story about him finding his wife again.
That's really cool.
It's a lot. It's one of those like everything everywhere all at once, like vibe,
Mm-hmm.
mind twisting situation. But the reason why it's life changing is kind of a stretch maybe, but
Influential.
Mm-hmm. Is just it really is a good book if you have like an existential crisis, like, am I doing the right thing with my life? That book will get rid of it.
Wow.
That book is like, you're where you should be. But then if you have a FOMO problem,
very different.
It's going to multiply that by about 1,000. So I highly recommend if you want to kind of switch over one side to the other.
I kind of like that. Maybe I'll check it out for sure. Maybe I'll get the audiobook because I love audio stuff.
Yes.
Okay, I do have one more question. I know I said that was the last one. What are you most excited about this year?
Oh, man. If not the launching for Making It Home, I am most excited to honestly watch the interest rates drop a little bit.
Okay. That you're most excited to watch the interest rate. We're really loan officers over here. What are you so excited about this year in 2023?
2023.
Interest rates to drop. Okay. Well, thank you for coming on and chatting with me this afternoon. This was really fun. I hope that you guys learned something new today about Hannah. She is this was just scratching the surface because the chick's written like mail to prisoners, right? Like ask her about it. It's really
okay.
it's
Listen,
good.
that was a long time ago.
Yeah, but it's interesting. I'm just saying there's so much to Hannah. I feel like we would need like a 17-part series to really dive deep, but this is one of many, of course, and I can't wait until interest rates are exactly where you said that they were going to be in 6 months.
Too.
And we'll catch you guys next time.
Thanks, Theoni.
Thanks.